Hello, dear students. So, this is third lesson, chapter 3 from history portion. So, before this, we have finished chapter 2, where we have studied about Rashtrakutas, Palas, Pratiharas. These three dynasties, mostly what they fight for the Kannauj. Okay, we learned that. And after that, what happened? These are the regional रूलर्स मीन्स इंडिया के ही कुछ ऐसे रूलर्स थे जो किंगडम इंडिया में बहुत ऐसे किंगडम थे अर्ली मेडिएवल में जो फाइट करते थे टेरिटरी के लिए. धीरे धीरे क्या हुआ, फिर फॉरेन रूलर आने लगे, जैसे अफ़गानिस्तान से, फिर लेट अफ़गानिस्तान, देन पर्शिया, ऐसे आने लगे. तो वो मीडिएवल पीरियड ही था किंगडम रूल. सो उसके बाद जब ट्रिपटाइट स्ट्रगल ख़त्म हुआ, डिक्लाइन हुआ, राजपूत डायनेस्टी भी स्टार्ट हुआ, हमने देखा राजपूत डायनेस्टी के अंदर भी, फिर तुर्किश इन्वेशन हुआ. सो आफ्टर दैट क्या हम यहाँ पे पढ़ेंगे दिस लेसन अबाउट सुल्तान्स ऑफ दिल्ली. ओके, यहाँ पे क्या है, वी कैन सी हियर अबाउट मोहम्मद घोरी मोहम्मद घोरी द रूलर ऑफ Ghor kingdom. He wanted his territory extend. I already told you that king always they want more and more territories. So Ghor also want more and more territories. So what he planned, he already got about the problem inside the India that many kings fought for the other territories. So he got other foreign king also got advantage. So North India he want to conquer. So then what happened here? See one thing. In 1191, Prithviraj Chauhan defeated Muhammad Ghori first battle. But unfortunately, what happened in 1191? Yes. Then unfortunately, agar 1192 second battle, what Prithviraj Chauhan lost. तो दैट मीन्स मोहम्मद घोरी जीत गया, पृथ्वीराज चौहान हार गए. सो यहाँ पे क्या हुआ, तो मोहम्मद घोरी जब जीत गए तो यहाँ पे क्या हुआ, दिल्ली सल्तनत का स्टार्ट हुआ. यहाँ पे एक बात याद इम्पॉर्टेंट है कि फाउंडेशन ऑफ दिल्ली सल्तनत रूल टिल 1206 to 1526. ओके, सो यहाँ पे इम्पॉर्टेंट है ये डेट वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. So यहाँ पे we can see here that this period was the ruler 5 powerful dynasties: Slav dynasty, then Khilji one, then Tughlaq one, Sayyid one, Lori dynasty. Okay, so in this lesson we will learn about this, and with that you can learn a very nice video from our digital. You can see also very nice video from the digital class. You can learn very easily. I have taken from the digital class. So remember this first Delhi Sultanate. In this lesson we will learn 5 Delhi Sultanate, 5 dynasty first came. Here Mughal not coming. Remember here mostly what? Delhi Sultanate first established. Mughal late, around 16th century Mughal we can say established. After means this Sultanate 16th century, that means from 1500 Mughal established their rule. After this all dynasty declined. Okay, so enjoy this video.
There are strange noises coming from the old museum, but it has been shut for years. What could be making these noises? Would you dare to enter the old museum and investigate? Come along then. Be absolutely quiet or the old watchman will wake up and catch us. Oh my! But all this dust is making me sneeze. Who is it? Kids? What are you kids doing here? Have you come here to see the museum? It's been closed since years, but years of history adorn its walls. Well, in that case, I can be your guide. Don't be surprised. I have been here for so long. I now know much more about history than history itself. Come along. He is Qutbuddin Aibak, the founder of the slave or Mamluk dynasty. The slave dynasty was so called because King Qutbuddin was himself a slave, and so were all rulers after him. He became the first Turkish ruler of Delhi in the year 1206. He was a kind ruler and was called Lakh Baksh, the giver of lakhs. He also started building the Qutub Minar, but couldn't finish it. Shamsuddin Iltutmish, who came to power in 1210, completed the Qutub Minar. This Turkish ruler was the first to mint gold and silver coins that were engraved in Arabic only. Oh, her! Isn't she pretty? She is Razia, the first woman ruler of the Delhi Sultanate. She used to dress like a man. She even rode horses and led armies into battle. This man is Ghiyasuddin Balban, who assumed power in 1266. He was an able ruler who protected his empire from rebellion and invasions. He was the last of the prominent rulers of this dynasty. Jalaluddin Khalji came to power in 1290, marking the end of the slave dynasty. Jalaluddin Khalji was brutally killed by his ambitious nephew Alauddin Khalji. Through military expeditions, Alauddin extended his empire to cover almost all of northern India and received tributes from many rulers in the Deccan. But he wasn't all bad. Alauddin was the first Delhi Sultan to fix the prices of goods for daily consumption, issue coins, and standardize weights and measures. So, let's say if you were a grain trader in Alauddin's empire, you could not hoard grains or sell them privately or increase prices in times of famine. The Tughlaq dynasty was established by Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq in 1320. Ghiyasuddin was a capable military commander and an efficient administrator. His son, Muhammad Tughlaq, was a learned and an accomplished scholar. As a ruler, he came up with several brilliant projects, however, most of which failed miserably. This is Firoz Shah Tughlaq. He encouraged learning and built towns like Firozabad, Fatehabad, Jaunpur, and Hisar Firoza. Between the Tughlaqs and the Lodhis, the Sayyids ruled Delhi for about 38 years. The Sayyid dynasty was founded by Khizr Khan. Next was the Lodhi dynasty, founded by Bahlul Lodhi in 1451. King Sikandar Lodhi is the most remembered of the Lodhi rulers as he founded the city of Agra. Ibrahim Lodhi was the last Sultan of the Delhi Sultanate. In 1526, he lost the Battle of Panipat to Babur, the first emperor of the Mughal Empire in India. And this brought an end to the Delhi Sultanate. And now, off with you, kids. But wait. Before you go home, let's quickly recall the important rulers of the different dynasties of the Delhi Sultanate. In the early 13th century, the sultans of northern India only had control over specific garrison towns. The areas surrounding these towns, or the hinterland, were often not under the sultan's control. This made it difficult for the sultans to manage the individual towns. The towns were dependent on trade, tribute, or plunder of nearby villages for supplies of many essential goods. Garrison towns like Awadh, Lahore, Multan, and Gwalior were also open to attack from surrounding regions. Rebellious chieftains of surrounding kingdoms often tried to attack and capture the garrison towns. The garrison towns also faced threats from external Mongol invasions. The expansion of the Delhi Sultanate was started by Iltutmish and was carried forward by other Delhi sultans like Balban, Alauddin Khalji, and Muhammad bin Tughlaq. In the first campaign, the hinterland of the Ganga-Yamuna Doab was captured. Forests were cleared and military posts were set up in this area. The cleared land was given to peasants and agriculture was encouraged. The Delhi Sultans also launched military campaigns to capture territories in the southern and eastern regions. In order to control and consolidate their growing empire, the Delhi Sultans appointed governors they could trust. For important administrative positions, the early Delhi Sultans preferred to appoint special slaves who were purchased for military services. These slaves were known as Bandagan in Persian. Latter sultans like the Khaljis and the Tughlaqs chose military commanders as governors of various territories. These territories were called Iqta. The holder of the territory was called an Iqtidar or Mukti. The Iqtidar had two main duties: to lead military campaigns and to maintain law and order. In exchange for their services, the Iqtidar collected revenue from the Iqta. Accountants were appointed to keep a check on the amount of revenue collected by Iqtidars and the number of soldiers they maintained. Thus, with a combination of territorial expansion and good administration, the Delhi Sultanate was able to expand and consolidate its rule.
The Mongols launched several invasions into the Indian subcontinent from 1221 to 1327. This compelled the then rulers of the Delhi Sultanate, Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq, to assemble large armies in Delhi. This in turn created great administrative challenges. Let us see how both these rulers handled the situation. Alauddin Khalji ruled over the Delhi Sultanate from 1296 to 1316. During his 20-year reign, he introduced many reforms to make his empire strong and powerful. During his reign, there were two invasions by the Mongols, so he was forced to raise a large standing army to repel the Mongol attacks. The soldiers had to be fed. This was done through the produce collected as tax from lands between the Ganga and Yamuna. Tax was fixed at 50% of the peasants' yield. The soldiers would buy their supplies from merchants in Delhi, and it was thus feared that merchants would raise their prices. To stop this, Alauddin controlled the prices of goods in Delhi. Prices were carefully surveyed by officers, and merchants who did not sell at the prescribed rates were punished. He constructed a new garrison town named Siri for his soldiers. He maintained a record of soldiers and paid them fixed salaries in cash from the royal treasury. He did away of the Ikta system. He set up several workshops and factories for the manufacture of weapons and other war material. He also organized a very efficient spy system. Spies were kept in every unit of the army. Due to his efficient administrative measures, Alauddin Khalji could successfully withstand the threat of Mongol invasions. Attacked by the Mongols during the early years of the reign of Muhammad Tughlaq, he defeated the Mongols. He raised a large standing army to hold out further invasions from the attackers from Central Asia. The standing army was also needed to meet Tughlaq's dream of wanting to conquer Transoxiana or regions in Central Asia. He spent a tremendous amount of money on war supplies and also gave the soldiers a year's salary in advance. This drained the royal treasury. Finally, the emperor was forced to recall and disband the army. In another move, instead of constructing a new garrison town, the oldest of the four cities of Delhi, known as Dilli-e-Kuhna, was reshaped as a garrison town for the soldiers. The residents of the town were shifted to Daulatabad, which had been made as the new capital. He believed that since Daulatabad was centrally located, it would ensure better administration and safety from the attack of Mongols. The journey from Delhi to Daulatabad was long and arduous, and many people lost their lives along the way. The people also found it difficult to settle down in unfamiliar territory. Besides, with the Sultan and his administration having shifted to Daulatabad, it left Delhi exposed to fresh attacks from the Mongols. So, once again, Muhammad Tughlaq ordered the capital to be shifted back to Delhi. This caused heavy financial loss and great hardship to the people. The Sultan also lost control over the Deccan after shifting back to Delhi. To meet the needs of his large army, he levied huge taxes on people, and this coincided with the severe famine. People were not in a position to pay extra tax. The royal officials forced the peasants to pay tax. The raising of taxes, a famine, and now the forced payment of taxes led to widespread rebellion. The soldiers were paid cash salaries in his regime, but instead of controlling prices, he introduced a token currency made out of cheap metals. The value of this token currency was the same as the value of gold and silver coins. People did not trust this currency, so they saved their gold and silver coins and paid all their taxes with this token currency. This token currency could easily be counterfeited. People started forging these coins, and soon they were in circulation all over in his kingdom. The experiment of the token currency failed, and the economic system of the empire collapsed. Muhammad Tughlaq was forced to recall the token currency. Thus, we can conclude that though Muhammad Tughlaq had great ideas to meet the administrative challenges of his empire, but he failed in the execution of most of them.